Is the Bitcoin bull market over? Is the cycle finished? Probably questions that you want some answers to, right? Short answer is no, in my opinion. However, short term, maybe a bit of volatility, might be a little bit of pain. A lot of human emotions will be triggered at this point. This isn't a new story. It's old. It's been kind of rolled out for a while, but now we have a wallet release. But we have no control. We don't know if people are going to keep, they're going to sell to something else, maybe Ethereum or Pepe or something, I don't know, or sell. But can this mark the spark of the entire catalyst of the market? Often we find with halving, with ETF approvals, there's often a little bit of a shakeout before it moves higher. This is news that is, in my opinion, relatively bullish longer term. But as I say, emotions are key. Clickbait will be everywhere with YouTube videos like my video here and obviously news articles. Please don't get sucked into it. This narrative of Mt Gox going to dump on everyone is finally going to get put to bed. So please be careful. And if you like this sort of stuff, leave a like. Let's get over 1,000 likes because it's been a while since we've done so. And let's get into the news. So let's get into it. There has been a lot of money being moved to one single address, right? So it has been unlocked. This is going to have a deadline of the 31st of October, just so you're aware of that. And yeah, it's going to be quite fun and games, but we don't know where these are going to go. They're going to go part of payment plans and stuff like that, which I will explain, and I will go through what Mt Gox is and stuff like that, because I know there's some new people here going, what are you on about? What is this Mt Gox thing? We're talking over 10 years ago, right? The repayment plans all gone to a single address as a part of a repayment plan, right? Sparking a little bit of an emotion, right? Which was always going to happen, let's be honest here. So there's got to be a lot of Bitcoin worth $9 billion, right? That's kind of the obvious. As I say, deadline, cool. Now, this is all money that was belonging to people back in the day, and obviously it collapsed. I'll go through that in more detail. But as you can see, closed in 2014 after it was revealed it lost hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin in a hack. Creditors have been awaiting a repayment of their holdings for a very, very long time. That's what I mean. When we talk about the upside here, this kind of doomy, horrible cloud of, oh, they're going to dump on us, is kind of going to go. Even if people are not going to be made whole, which is kind of obviously not going to be made whole, but in terms of the volume and the price of Bitcoin versus what it was back in those days, they're going to be relatively wealthy even still, which is kind of good because probably a lot of these people wrote it off a long, long time ago and they still had time to get back in the game, which is hugely important. But let's go into what Mt Gox was. So Mt Gox was essentially the single most market share of majority of the industry back in the day. It was, weirdly, it was an exchange that was designed for the card game Magic of the Gathering, I know, or whatever it's called. So when we talk about that, then it kind of just became a place for Bitcoin, and it was based over in Tokyo. And as you can see here, it was the largest at its peak, handles 70 to 80% of the trading volume. Ooh, that's a lot. When you think about how many exchanges we've got now, and there was one in the day that handled that much, that is a point of failure, which is kind of where we had a bit of a problem when you look at the charts. Now, when we talk about that, obviously, back in the day when I was doing research of Bitcoin, I was learning about Bitcoin in 2012, 2013 before I joined the Air Force. I didn't invest. And then ultimately, literally as I was going through training into my training school, yeah, it all crumbled and collapsed. I was like, whoa, thank God for that. 10 years later, here I am still. It's crazy, right? So when we talk about that, it's kind of huge. And you can see here, the fatal blow was in February 2014, where there was literally reports of 650,000 to 850,000 Bitcoin lost. They were able to relocate 200,000. So as you can say, you know, as I've said, there's only going to be so many people that are going to be made whole, and there's probably none of them, let's be honest. They can't. It's impossible. There's so much lost. Obviously, it depends on how many people are claiming. Obviously, the people who would have passed away. There'll be other people that have like totally lost all records that they actually sent money there as well. So there's a lot of nuances, but ultimately, they're going to be wealthier than what they would have thought they would have been, right? So just to give you the gravity of this in terms of obviously the accumulation range of Bitcoin back in the day, this is like kind of the start of time on Bitstamp. So we don't have a true record, but you can see here in terms of the price of Bitcoin was roughly what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever dollars. And then it started to ramp up, really ramp up. And there's videos back in the day of like 2013 Bitcoiners on YouTube talked about when Bitcoin went over $100, $115, stuff like that. It went up ridiculously high in November 2013, and then it did come back down. But there was a lot of rumors back in the day of insolvency of Mt. Gox. A lot of people weren't getting credited and stuff like that, and there was a lot of problems when people pulling money out. It obviously collapsed. And when we talk about emotions, this is what happened. This has happened as well throughout multiple cycles in Bitcoin's history as well. When things go up, things come down, right? So people obviously panicked, and we went all the way back down to $149 or $153 from a height of 1,161. So yeah, human emotions are key. But let's talk about human emotions, because people now are going to talk about this multi-billion amount of money, Bitcoin, to get moved around the market, which was people. And now people can get some money back eventually over time. It's taken a long time, but it's a black cloud that I think we need to get solved before this bull market really starts. I still think and believe, and I don't know how many people agree with me, we're still in the 4-year cycle sort of thing. We are kind of halfway through that, and we've had the bear market. We're going into a bull market, right? Whether we top out the end of this year, next year, whatever it may be, who knows? But to get this done by October would be a very, very big thing. As I say, that's a lot of money going into people's hands that thought they've lost it. They've probably thought they lost everything, right? They could do whatever the hell they want with it. I think this, as I say, is bullish. People might buy altcoins. People may just keep Bitcoin. They may well sell OTC to the likes of Michael Saylor, Bitcoin miners, all these other big institutions that are buying Bitcoin as well. So yeah, it's a relatively big thing in my opinion. If you want me to talk about Bitcoin miners and the likes of MicroStrategy and Coinbase's traditional investments, which are linked obviously to Bitcoin, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you want something like that. Now, regardless if you are a Bitcoiner or if you're an altcoin or whatever, the ETF narrative is still huge here. There's a lot of money going back onto the market, the open market, into people's hands essentially eventually over time, and they're looking for Bitcoin, right? The last thing that they want to do, in my opinion, would be to go to the open spot market. They will look at OTC first. And we've talked about this quite a lot all the time. There will be, at some point, a supply crunch, and everyone in whatever asset, it will go up because people want it. Demand, hype, emotions. You get the idea, big green candles. The ETFs are doing very well, even still. When we talk about this in overall, the bigger picture, let's talk about it. You can see there's a decent amount of inflow and the amount of supply is gone. This is an interesting point. Look at how many Bitcoin is kind of on-chain holdings. It's 57.2 billion at the moment. There's going to be 10 billion added to the market, which would have been locked up forever or lost. There's already been quite a lot lost anyways, right? So when we talk about that, that's still a decent chunk. It's about 1% of the supply of Bitcoin essentially coming back out. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's nice. So what's going to happen? Well, you can argue for one or two things. ETFs will probably buy it. People that want to sell, they may well sell OTC to them for a quick, easy sale. But ultimately as well, they might just keep it or buy altcoins because they might just think, well, why not? A bit of casino gambling. I've got my money back now. Who knows, right? When we talk about obviously ETFs, we've got to also mention MicroStrategy. This is how many Bitcoins they have. I know, quite a lot, right? So when we talk about that, yeah, there's a decent chunk coming out of the market. And you can see here the average price of Bitcoin that has been purchased has been $7.5 billion. It's obviously worth over double that now, but you can see the amount of supply. So when we talk about obviously that, yeah, there's a decent chunk of the supply, as I say, coming back onto the market. And MicroStrategy might also be looking to acquire that maybe at a cheaper price from people. That's speculation, but it kind of means for an obvious kind of situation, why wouldn't people go to MicroStrategy or go to the ETFs and go, you know what, I've got my money back. I might want to give you some of my Bitcoins at a lower price to save me selling it on the market. Because some people, remember, we're going back to the OG days. We're going back to, 14 years potentially for some people buying Bitcoin on Mt. Gox. They might well still have that affiliation with Bitcoin. So they might not want to just go, sell. Hopefully not. The final bit of news to cover today is obviously the ETP in UK. Hello. We got one. This is not for retail. This is more for institutions and stuff like that and professionals. But ultimately, it's a step in the right direction. If you're in the UK, you'll know this. The FCA have absolutely hounded us with real horrible restrictions. So fingers crossed this is a gateway for the UK to actually become that crypto hub. I'm not holding my breath though. Let's talk about the technical analysis side of it. I'm going to look at Bitcoin and a few other things. If you want more of this, check out my Patreon. I do like a bigger deep dive on my Tuesday videos. So it could be interesting to know what could happen with Bitcoin here. Now, let's go up into, a fresh chart, monthly time frame. This is kind of where we're at. Now, some people may say this might be a massive cup and handle. Just saying. I don't really look at those. When we look at the weekly, though, I think the weekly is key here. We are still looking, in my opinion, relatively good. It's been a massive run up, right? How far do we go in terms of supply crunches, in terms of retail money? And I've often talked about this. This is my main chart, right? This is my main chart here. And I've talked about this level here, 83,000. Now, this is where we need to kind of look a little bit bearish at the same time, right? A correction. Let's just remove the noise and we'll keep the levels on, essentially. Let me just remove that bit. We'll keep it like that. Now, when we talk about this double top and all this kind of stuff, we could be looking at a potential retracement, right? Where we've had an impulse, we've pulled back and we've went up to the 786. What if we do correct down to this 51,000? I'm just putting this thought out there. That wouldn't be a bad correction. It could be also very, very possible that this is a nice ABC correction and we pull back down into this region. Now, this region here could be huge and it could also be a sign that it is a natural correction of roughly 30%. Keep that number in your head. Now, when we talk about that, that is quite natural for a Bitcoin sort of correction. Looking at this region. Now, when you zoom out and look at that whole entire area, it looks like a very good area for volume to come in. Now, the doom and gloom argument is this. People sell. We correct. Emotions, people cry, and then off we go. This has happened on so many bull markets in the past where we have had huge corrections before things run. I know, scaring you, sorry. When we go back in time and we look at, let's just talk about, it's just about on there. If I go back to the BTC USD chart on Bitstamp, I want to show you something. This is quite important, by the way. When we talk about like runs, now look at this, right? Look at these corrections. So obviously, start of the year, things were going ridiculous. It was really nice. But there was genuine big boy corrections, right? And these were horrible, right? 40% corrections. And then obviously, that could happen quite easily with Bitcoin in today's market very, very quickly, very, very obviously, because why? They've happened before in the past. There's an 18% correction. This one's a bit steeper. This one's about 22. This one as well was pretty ferocious as well. They do happen. Now, 30% is quite large in today's market. We've already had a huge correction already. But when we look at this structure, it's not looking great. But ultimately, break above this region, it could get very, very interesting. Now, there'd be a lot of panic in the air, a lot of people flapping a little bit. That would create a movement down, emotions, and the order blocks will come in, and then it'll probably send us higher because people have a little bit of capitulation. Altcoins are kind of bleeding out a little bit and things are going a bit ugly. Remember, we've just had some good news, ETF approval. It's miles away though. It's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks away potentially. The structure isn't there yet. So that could be the bearish play. The bullish play is what I think is more likely is a correction, a little bit of a wobble and a bit of volatility catch people out, and then we get sent. Because when we often talk about it, the fundamentals of the cake is here. Open market Bitcoin is returning to people that could trigger volume going elsewhere, that could drive prices up elsewhere higher, creating interest around the whole entire industry. The Bitcoin narrative is still there. We are still very, very high. Dominance is still high, but some altcoins are low. What if there's a lot of people on the sidelines that were invested in Bitcoin? I've looked at some altcoins and go, whoa, I'm going to get millions back. Boom, back into Solana, into Ethereum, Near Protocol, freaking anything you want, really. Let's be honest, maybe some shit coins like Jenner's coin or whatever that. Well, let's not go into that. Another open question could be MicroStrategy. People who got their Bitcoin back might convert into fiat and buy into something like MicroStrategy or invest in Bitcoin miner infrastructure with spare money that they've got because it's a bit of a different play than Bitcoin and they've got some money back. Look at the MicroStrategy chart. Look at how much that realistically looks like the Bitcoin chart. There's also a lot of other people who have just bought into this. I think George Soros is another person who just bought into MicroStrategy. It's mental, that chart. It's one thing I don't own. I owned it for a little bit. I saw they didn't put much into it. I own a lot of miners. I own a lot of Coinbase. But when we talk about traditional markets going into Bitcoin, stuff like that, the money's there. It is money, right? It's a bit scary when you think about it. So MicroStrategy could well be a play that people look at because they've just got a load of their money back and they may want just to invest and have a bit of fun. They also are following the money. MicroStrategy are buying a lot of Bitcoin. And again, as I say, if there's going to be that many Bitcoins going onto the open market again, they're probably going to look to buy it. So when we look at the total market cap, it looks, as I say, very, very similar to the Bitcoin chart because most of the weight is Bitcoin. But the reality is here, we still haven't had, in my opinion, that parabolic run. And the catalyst of all catalysts can be a bit of fear, right? And that always works because there's two reasons. Talked about it recently. Fear that it's going down, it's over. And then the fear of missing out. Often you get the first bit first, it's over, it goes down, people get a bit iffy. But that's just the start of it. There's two other things we need to talk about that could be interesting here. The first interesting thing is the dollar is slowly dropping. Now, we've had a break of structure, we've had a bit of an impulse and we're pulled back. We've also created a very, very big 3-day bearish engulfing candle. This is a structure at the minute. We've pulled back into this region, the 618, and could we be going lower? That is good for crypto. Usually when this goes down, crypto and other assets as well, not just crypto, tend to go up. That's hugely important. When we talk about interest and people moving money around, people might be like, oh, hello. So be mindful of that one. The final thing to talk about is Bitcoin dominance. Ethereum ETF, Ethereum and some altcoins have been doing well versus Bitcoin recently. And we are starting to break below back into this region. Even today, it's down nearly 50%. Oh, well, 50%, 0.5%, sorry. Maths, not my strong point. So that could be very, very interesting to see where we go now. Now, obviously, the biggest weight is Bitcoin. The second biggest weight is obviously Ethereum, right? So Ethereum dominance has been going up due to the ETF approval. People are interested. That then leads to the fact of, where is it? The BTC pair of Ethereum finally correcting, and it hit a level, nice level it hit, and then is pulling back up. Now, this could be short term, but ultimately, as I say, the Ethereum ETFs are not ready yet. But when we talk about sharing the limelight, this could well be the retail mania. There's two reasons. The first reason, as I've said in previous videos, that 80k, oh my God, what's happening here? The 80k level of Bitcoin could be the mainstream media sort of level. But ultimately, the break of all-time high, and I've said this before in my previous video, of Ethereum could well send that as well, leading to more interest in the entire market, money coming in. Mount Gox cloud gone, sold, moved around, OTC, kept, whatever. Could be very much a catalyst for a bull market to really kick off, in my opinion. So there we go. Obviously not financial advice, all speculation, based off the news, based off history, based off emotions, how people act, what people will do. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, there's a video that I'm recommending to you guys to check out. Might help you a little bit with understanding what's happened with the ETF side of it.